special. We're focusing on the wider community. Needless to say, on a project like this, we can't even come close to mentioning all the folks who have done so much good for the congregation and the wider community. So today is just a small taste. And I really want to thank Peter and Marnie. This text is predominantly theirs. Jen Livey helped with some editing. And we know that it's just not in any shape or form inclusive. But here are some community leaders who have blessed our congregation in the past. Elizabeth Charles was in leadership with the YWCA for a number of decades at a time when women especially deserved and needed more resources for sports and leadership development. Elizabeth Madera was a longtime member of the Board of Trustees of the Germantown Boys and Girls Club and donated a gorgeous stained glass window for our sanctuary. Alan Dawley was a professor of history and a social activist. Alan created the College of New Jersey Center for the Study of Social Justice. He won the prestigious Bancroft Prize in History Writing for his first book entitled Class and Community in '77. Subsequently published 3 other books. He served on the board of Weaver's Way Co-op and West Mount Airy Neighbors. Al and Flora Lisi were prominent liberal social activists and educators. They were leaders in Women's International League for Peace and Justice, were founding members of Weaver's Way Co-op, and long-time involved leaders in the Co-op Nursery School. Adelira Kinzer was an elementary school teacher in Philadelphia for 40 years, an organist and choir master in several churches. Adelira founded and directed the Songsters Unlimited, a 50-member chorus of senior adults at the center in the park. She was very active in the civil rights movement and received the National Unsung UU Award for her work in the denomination. For Adelira's memorial, there was more UUA brass in the building than any time in my ministry. Eversley Vaughn, an advocate for city neighborhoods and efforts ranging from integration to school improvement. He was the president of the Philadelphia Council of Neighborhood Organizations. Eversley helped form the East Mount Airy Neighbors, which combated white flight of residents and established a community center with daycare programs, an adult school, and boarding home for the mentally retarded. Among tributes, Eversley received the City of Philadelphia Human Rights Award, the Jewish Community Relations Sylvia Cohen Award, and 3 times he won the NAACP Distinguished Service Award. Joseph Still Clark was elected in 1951 as the first Democratic mayor of Philadelphia since 1884. Among many attributes, Mr. Clark was lauded for reducing corruption in the city government. In '56, he was elected United States Senator. He served 2 terms, leading in civil rights, congressional reform, and early strong criticism of the Vietnam War. Joseph Watlington, Jr. served in the United States Army in the U.S., Europe, and Africa during World War II. Back in Philadelphia, Joseph was an insurance broker and effective booster of city economic development. Joseph was chair of Philadelphia Allied Action Commission, an anti-poverty organization. He was chair of the Afro-American Museum for 6 years in the 70s, director of the Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce, and the Philadelphia Convention and Visitors Bureau. Germantown Citizens Council named him an outstanding citizen in '77, and he received the city's Liberty Bell Award in '79. Judge Ethan Allen Doty served over 66 years in law and nearly 40 years as a judge on Common Pleas Court. A Reform Democrat, Judge Doty believes strongly in the principles of Roosevelt and Truman. At Temple University, he was a member of the executive committee of the board, and at one time he was president of the Alumni Association. And Temple played a great football game last night. Heart. The Tuskegee Airmen were a group of African-American military pilots, fighter and bomber, who fought in World War II. During World War II, black Americans in many U.S. states were still subject to Jim Crow laws, and the American military was racially segregated, as was much of the federal government. In that context of discrimination, the Tuskegee Airmen were the first African-American military aviators in the United States Armed Forces. 3 members of the Unitarian Society of Germantown were members of the Tuskegee Airmen. This includes George H. Kidd III and Oscar W. Gibbs Jr., both deceased, and our wonderful living member, Bertram A. Levy. George H. Kidd III was a highly regarded aerospace physiologist who researched ways to help pilots withstand stress in the cockpit. Dr. Kidd spent a career of 34 years in U.S. naval research as a team leader. He served as a pilot himself in the Army Air Corps. He also taught physiology department at University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine. For his work, Dr. Kidd was honored with the first Aerospace Award of the National Medical Association. He was president of our church for 2 terms. Oscar Woodward Gibbs attended the U.S. Air Force Officers Candidate School, where he received his commission as lieutenant. Upon his discharge from the military, Oscar earned his master's degree from Harvard, and his professional career in education began in Philadelphia, where he taught elementary school for many years.